The secondary tariff imperialist threat. Earlier this year, the Donald Trump administration threatened to levy a 25% secondary tariff on goods from countries that import Venezuelan oil and gas, whether directly or indirectly.
If they buy their oil from Venezuela, they have to pay a 25% tariff to do business with the United States.
Is that on top of existing tariffs? So, for example, China buys
yes,
a lot of oil.
that would be on top of existing.
45% tariff on China next week?
That's on top of existing tariffs, yes.
The secondary tariffs are an unprecedented U.S. trade policy to be applied at the discretion of the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Commerce. However, the secondary tax remains a looming threat as there's no roadmap for its actual implementation. Unlike primary tariffs, usually driven by broader commerce policy, secondary tariffs are arbitrary and violate international trade laws as they target third-party countries or entities that trade with nations labeled enemies of U.S. interests. For example, Iran has also been threatened with the same secondary tariff punishment. Secondary tariffs mimic U.S. secondary sanctions, which since 2020 have discouraged countries from engaging with Venezuelan entities such as PDVSA, under threat of exclusion from U.S. markets. Both tools, on top of 8 years of primary sanctions, seek to isolate Venezuela, reduce revenue, and facilitate regime change. Secondary tariffs specifically aim to further deter buyers of Venezuelan oil, the country's main revenue source. Additionally, the U.S. levied a 10% primary tariff on direct imports from Venezuela, mainly affecting seafood exporters. Trump has likewise unleashed trade wars left and right, especially with China, though in many cases it has been forced to back down. The cost of Trump's tariff war will ultimately fall to U.S. businesses and consumers, but it also destabilizes global trade. The Maduro government has condemned Trump's efforts to colonize global economies, vowing to bolster Venezuela's oil industry and continue working to reduce U.S. dominance in international markets.
No se puede pretender romper la convivencia mundial, económica y comercial con una guerra de aranceles que no tiene ni pies ni cabeza y que castiga a la humanidad completa. Castiga en primer lugar al pueblo de Estados Unidos. No lo digo yo, estoy repitiendo lo que están diciendo analistas, expertos, medios de comunicación estadounidenses. Y nosotros estamos haciendo un seguimiento para blindarnos frente a todas las circunstancias previsibles.
Tariffs, sanctions and trade wars, these are all desperate imperialist tactics, and they are increasingly backfiring.